All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start the recording. Optimize for sound. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember us going through. Oh, sorry about that. Here we are. Okay, so if I remember correctly, the last thing we went over was the meat sharing behavior in chimpanzees.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar? And we had not
Yeah.
yet watched the hammer and anvil use in Japanese macaques. Does that sound correct?
No, I think we did watch that.
We did watch that. Okay, did we watch the Japanese macaques in the hot springs?
Yep.
We did? Okay. Did we watch the lemurs self-medicating using the insecticide?
No.
Okay, let's start out with the lemurs. So now we're kind of on to examples of self-medication. So not only do primates use tools and engage in culture in the wild, they're also capable of self-medicating. So the next, I think, 3 or 4 examples are self-medication. So kind of as you're watching this, think about why would this be adaptive? Essentially, what is the motivation for this primate to behave in that way? What is the adaptation here? And why is it an evolutionary advantage? And what are any possible downfalls of this adaptation as well? Let me check on the sound real quick before I turn that on. Oh, we're good.
Their favourite poison is found crawling in the forest. Like pufferfish, millipedes are toxic. But that doesn't stop the lemurs seeking them out. The millipedes use dangerous secretions, including cyanide, as a defence. But the lemurs still chew on them, albeit extremely cautiously. The toxins cause the lemurs to salivate. They then rub both the saliva and the millipede into their fur. They use it as an insecticide to ward off insects such as mosquitoes that carry malaria. But they are suspiciously enthusiastic about the whole process. It seems they don't just work as an insect repellent. The chemicals also appear to send them into a trance-like state. A condition of complete intoxication. And they can't seem to get enough. When it's all over, there's no hiding the state they are in. Time to sleep it off.
All right, so who can tell me what might be the adaptive purpose? Why did that behavior likely evolve amongst lemurs?
Well, hold on.
That's okay. Take your time.
Where did my thoughts go?
That's all right. Take your time.
As an insect repellent?
Yeah. So essentially the millipede secretions act as a natural insect repellent, but obviously they probably had to discover that through some trial and error. And then also they must have the cognitive ability to understand that secretion then correlates with them, not being bitten by mosquitoes as frequently. So, obviously there's an advantage there. So that provides a repellent to mosquitoes. Mosquitoes aren't only annoying, but especially if you're talking about Madagascar, those mosquitoes could also be carrying malaria. So that could be potentially something that would enhance their capacity for survival. But there was a side effect, right? There was a side effect. It kind of made them a little bit high, right? So what would potentially be the downfall of that side effect, maybe for primates in the wild, let's say?
Predators.
Yeah. If they're getting high on insecticide, then they might also be more susceptible to predators. Okay, so there's a benefit of them. That insecticide is preventing them from getting bitten by mosquitoes that may carry malaria. But the downfall is that that side effect of the intoxicating effect may make them more susceptible to predators. But one thing about lemurs, them living on Madagascar, there's not a whole lot of predators on Madagascar. Essentially, the predators on Madagascar are really only the fossa, which is kind of a panther-like animal. Would you guys, whoever's not on mute, would you mind putting yourself on mute just because we can hear your background noise? All right, there we go. Okay. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Okay, so essentially, the downfall is that they could be susceptible to predators. But in Madagascar, there aren't a whole lot of predators, so that may be why that behavior tends to persist, is there's not a whole lot of predators, there's not a whole lot of downfall to that intoxicating effect. All right, next example. Any questions about that?
Yeah, that's a cultural that's a cultural adaptation, correct? Because that's just, it has to be a learned
Yeah.
hey, don't eat those, eat these.
Exactly. Yeah, I would definitely consider that more of a cultural adaptation because it's not something that is coded for in their genes. It's not a physiological adaptation like shivering or sweating. It's not a developmental one. I would consider that more of a cultural / behavioral because it is a learned behavior and it is a behavior that enhances survival and reproduction. So I would call that a cultural adjustment and or adaptation. Nice connection there to the adaptation chapter. All right, next example is going to be Zanzibar red colobus monkeys. So these are old world monkeys and they're going to be using charcoal for a specific reason. I don't want to give too much away. I want you guys to watch, but same question. Think about why is this adaptive? Why do these primates want to use charcoal? And is there any downfall to this adaptation?
There are over 250 species of monkeys in the world. But the Zanzibar red colobus monkey is considered quite special. Only found in Zanzibar, it's known for its unique eating habits, lovely red fur on its back, and is thought to be very, very friendly. So now we're here at Jozani Forest, which is famously home to the Zanzibar red colobus monkey. They're an endangered species, and we're here to meet one of the guides who's helping to save them. At one time, there was an incident where some farmers killed at least 50 Zanzibar red colobus monkeys because they were perceived as a threat. Now, there are concerted efforts to help maintain the monkey population and their habitat. In Jozani, what efforts have you made to make sure that they are no longer in danger?
The government is trying to involve local communities in conservation. For instance, here, if you do calculations, 50% of the revenue collected from Jozani Chaka Bay National Parks goes to local communities.
The last census that you did, have the numbers improved or is it the same?
The number has been increasing. Previously, there were around 2,000 3 years ago. The number has been increasing up to 5,800.
Zanzibar red colobuses play an important role in tourism, which is one of Zanzibar's most important economic sectors. Thousands of tourists visit Jozani National Park to see these primates, and this generates thousands of dollars in earnings as park fees. Habib has worked at Jozani for over 20 years and loves all the features that make this monkey unique.
They don't eat ripe fruit like other species of monkeys. Like they have 4 chambers of stomach which are unable to digest the sugars. And it's very strange. They feed on charcoals. This charcoal helps them in digestion system as well as to get rid of some poison materials.
what's the one thing that you think is so special about them that you love about them?
I love them, especially their behavior. The behavior, because unlike other species of monkeys, they're really used to people. They never attack you.
So hopefully, future generations can visit the forest to see this beautiful primate.
All right, so who can tell me what is the adaptive purpose of using charcoal for those Zanzibar monkeys?
I couldn't determine through his accent what he was saying.
Okay, no problem. So essentially what he was saying is that because they eat plants that are a little bit toxic, but they kind of need that plant as one of their sources of food, especially when other food sources are not readily available, they may have to eat that for survival. It's just slightly toxic, but the charcoal kind of acts as it removes those toxins essentially.
Hmm.
So if anybody is familiar or maybe works in the nursing industry, if somebody has an overdose or consumes something that they shouldn't consume, sometimes charcoal is what's administered because it makes that person throw up immediately, or at least relatively quickly to basically expel whatever that toxin is from their body. So they basically figured out that exact same thing. They figured out that that using that charcoal will help if they've consumed too much of that plant, if they're starting to feel really, really sick and they know, oh, uh-oh, I must have consumed too much of that plant. They've figured out that they can use charcoal to make themselves throw up.
That's
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, charcoal is a great filter.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, obviously it seems a little bit maladaptive because it's like, well, why in the world are they eating those plants in the first place? But the reason is, I mean, they really only rely upon that in circumstances where there's no other food available. But it's kind of like they must have a higher level thinking if they figured out, oh, if I'm feeling too sick, I better take this charcoal to make sure that that it's filtered through my body, and or if it's extreme, that that it's allowing me to expel that from my system. Is that making sense?
Yes, it's the sodium bicarbonate of the wild.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent analysis. Excellent comparison. Okay, one more self-medication example. So this one's just kind of for fun. This is going to show you some vervet monkeys, which are old world monkeys, and they're at a resort in St. Kitts. And it's showing you how they're kind of interested in alcohol in the same way that we are sometimes. Obviously in the wild, primates aren't necessarily having access to daiquiris, but in the wild, they do have access to fruit. And as fruit ferments, it does have a very slight alcoholic content. So there have been some wild studies that have shown that even in natural environments, primates do sometimes seek out fermented fruit possibly due to the alcoholic content. So go ahead and watch the clip and you guys tell me what you think. It's also a pretty humorous clip.
For years, the monkeys have been studied for insights into our own drinking habits. Just as we vary in our taste for alcohol, so do the monkeys. Some do anything for an alcoholic cocktail. But just as some people are teetotal, so are some monkeys. These reject alcohol in favor of soft drink. Significantly, the percentage of teetotal monkeys matches the non-drinkers in the human population. In line with human habits, most drink in moderation. 12% are steady drinkers, and 5% drink to the last drop. This similarity between us shows that a liking for alcohol is determined mainly by our genes. after each daily raid, other human parallels soon appear. But unlike us, monkeys that are heavy drinkers make better leaders, respected by other monkeys. They seem to tolerate leaders that monkey around. Like monkeys, our taste for alcohol began when we scoured the forest for ripe fermenting fruit. Food and alcohol became linked with intoxicating effect.
All right. I always love that clip. It always cracks me up. All right. So what could potentially be the benefit to consuming a little bit of fermented fruit or alcohol for these vervet monkeys? Any ideas?
To lower the inhibitions to talk to those ladies on the beach.
Exactly. Exactly. I think, but you're totally right, Julian. It's likely probably the same reasons we might like a daiquiri or a pina colada every once in a while. Probably to lower our inhibitions and to let loose a little bit. It's likely for similar reasons. I mean, we don't know for sure. There is actually a whole study. It's called the drunken monkey hypothesis. There's a book about it. If this is interesting to you, definitely check it out. But they also, interestingly enough, found that there were similar percentages of the vervet monkeys that knew, when enough is enough, when, okay, it's time to stop. There were similar percentages of those that maybe did not know and maybe had a little bit of a reliance upon it. So it's kind of interesting that vervet monkeys would have similar, similar percentages as far as those that don't prefer alcohol at all versus those that like it in moderation versus those that don't quite know when to stop. So it's just kind of interesting that there would be similar percentages, and obviously maybe beneficial for us if we can study this and understand maybe how to help those that are struggling with those types of addictions. Okay, just kind of interesting way that we can use primatology for reasons other than the obvious. All right, questions so far? Nothing? Okay. All right. So we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk about vocal communication. So obviously primates vocalize. They don't necessarily have language in the same way that we do, of course, but primates do vocalize. Just like it sounds, vocalizations are just ways of communicating with one another. There's going to be different reasons why we'll talk about. But those loud vocalizations will be communicating messages over longer distances. So generally, if a primate is vocalizing very loudly, it may be about territory. They may be marking their territory. They may be giving another group of primates off on the outskirts a warning, like, hey, this is our territory over here, stay away or keep your distance. And then softer vocalizations will likely indicate, or likely communications between just one or two primates, maybe a few, but likely not, an entire group of primates. So vocalizations may indicate that primate's emotional state, just like it does for us. They may give listeners information about the world around us. So there's specific calls that indicate predators. And I'm going to show you a video clip here about that in a second, but know that many primate societies have the ability to vocalize in slightly different ways to indicate a predator and the predator's attack strategy. So there may be an alarm call that goes out. Maybe let's say I let out the alarm call for hawk or eagle. So we know a hawk or an eagle is likely an aerial predator coming from above. So if I let out the alarm call for hawk or eagle, then we all know, okay, let's move down in the canopy. Let's move down and try to hide ourselves in the branches. If somebody else, let's say Julian lets out the alarm call for a terrestrial predator like a leopard or a snake, then all of a sudden we all know to move up in the canopy and try to hide ourselves from the predator in that way. So when you think about it, even though it's a very simple vocalization, that potentially has the capacity to really enhance the survival of the entire group. And it's a very altruistic behavior as well, because just by letting out that vocalization, that one primate letting out the vocalization is putting themselves at risk because they are all of a sudden, they're calling attention to themselves rather than the social group. Okay, so vocalizations may also indicate a food source. Vocalizations tend to have clear patterns, somewhat similar to what you might see in human language. We know that primate vocalizations can be largely pre-programmed, but there are some innovations in sound. Some primatologists just strictly study vocalizations. They go out in the wild and they study the vocalizations that these primates make and then look at how they're behaving, how they're interacting with one another in association with those vocalizations. And these primatologists are learning how to communicate like a chimpanzee, for example, or like a vervet monkey or like a Diana monkey. And we know that vocalizations also serve to name and identify food resources because primates are group selected, meaning that we are concerned with the survival of our entire community, not just ourselves. That means we're not going to be selfish. If we find a really good patch of fruit or we, just had a successful hunt and we've got some meat to share, we may vocalize to let our allies know that, hey, come on over here. We've got some dinner ready. Vocalizations may monitor political landscapes within a group. They can also reinforce dominance hierarchies and social bonding. So thinking back to that gelada baboon clip we watched back last class period, there's lots of vocalizations going on, especially when they had the minor conflicts that involved the harem master and the bachelor. And there's that vocalizations going on that really kind of let the whole group know that something's going on, that you can kind of saw the whole group kind of surrounding them. But those vocalizations definitely were happening between the dominant male and the bachelor to kind of further the dominant male's dominance, his hierarchy. All right, so this next clip we're going to watch is on predator alarm calls. So I like this little clip because it gives you multiple species. So you're going to see multiple old world monkeys here. You're going to see guenons, Diana monkeys, sooty mangabes, colobus monkeys, and a few others. Okay, and then the second half of the clip, so we're going to watch two parts. The first half is on old world monkeys, excuse me, giving out predator alarm calls. And then the second half is going to show you a false predator warning call amongst capuchins, and capuchins are New World monkeys. So it's just about a 6-minute clip that we're going to watch, but it's going to show you both. And I want you to think about, so same question we've been answering, what is the adaptive purpose here? Why are these primates vocalizing in the first place? And then also, why in the world would they be doing a false alarm call? So what would be the purpose of letting out a false alarm call? So let me find where this clip is located. Here we go. Let it load here. All right. So what is the purpose of the vocalizations and also think about why would they want to be able to communicate with multiple species? Think about why that might be adaptive. And then the second half, think about why in the world would that capuchin monkey want to let out a false alarm call?
Tall, sensitive, and make we give words to thoughts and feelings. Without words, is thinking even possible? The jungle, to us, may seem a cacophony of meaningless sounds. Each animal listens to its own calls and usually tunes out the rest. But some monkeys are multilingual. Guenons live here, and there are several species of them. Each has its own calls for communicating with other members of its troop. These Diana monkeys have joined an army of other Guenons, a united nation of monkeys, and that requires them to understand each other. On the forest floor live sooty mangabes. They specialize in gathering fallen nuts. Above are red colobus, spot-nosed and putty-nosed guenons, black and white colobus, Campbell's guenon, and the Diana monkey, which live mainly in the upper canopy. These monkeys all behave as though they're one troop, moving through the forest together, resting together, and all looking out for predators. On the forest floor, the sooty mangabe can rely on the eyes and ears above and relax thanks to the alliance. If a red colobus spots something like a snake, it gives the red colobus alarm call for snake. A spot-nosed guenon reacts immediately. If a Diana monkey high in the trees sees an eagle, the alarm goes up, eagle, and all the monkeys look up. Each species has a different alarm call, but they all understand each other. With 8 different monkeys and about 15 calls each, that's 120 different sounds. The mangabes see a leopard. All the other monkeys call leopard in their own way, but there are other calls in there too. Diana monkeys have been the most studied. Their ability to understand other species gives scientists a running translation of other monkey calls. If Diana monkeys hear a string of calls by a Campbell's guenon, say, they behave as if they were hearing a sentence. Some calls add detail, may be, or not urgent. With another guenon, if the sounds are in a different order, it means something else. Grammar, the basis of true language, was once thought of as uniquely human. Chimps have not yet been shown to have this ability in the wild, only monkeys and people. Diana monkeys also have a voice box more like ours, so alarm calls may be only a small part of their vocabulary. If talking is an ancient monkey ability, we should find something similar in other monkeys around the world. In forests from Africa to South America, scientists have found monkeys whose calls refer to predators. But do they ever use sounds for things when they can't see them, when they're just thinking about them? The white-faced capuchins in Costa Rica live by streams full of danger. They're nervous, maybe imagining death lurking under every log or pile of leaves. They too have put sounds to some of their fears and have different calls for different predators. A call goes up, snake. The whole troop leaps out of the water and up into the trees. They soon calm down. Once noticed, most predators are of little danger. The warning system is built on trust and honesty. Yet very occasionally some monkeys deliberately shout an alarm call when there is no snake there. The reason for this deception lies in the fact that monkey society is very competitive. The leaders often take food from subordinates. The problem for a low-status monkey is not just finding food, it's hanging on to it, and sometimes they have to be a little crafty. Suppose a subordinate is acting a little strangely, watching the others closely. He then could, without any obvious panic, call snake, and everybody leaps out of the water. While the others are looking for snakes, he could sneak down and recover a fallen bird's egg he could have been hiding. The leaders slowly return to the pool. It seems that lying may be as old as language itself. If our little manipulator is spotted with his egg, he's in big trouble. This sort of deception has been noticed in several species. It shows they imagine things when they're not visible. And it implies that they're beginning to think about what each other may be thinking about. Millions of years ago, Some monkeys reached this point and then took another huge leap into the unknown. They left the forest.
All right, so let's talk about the old world monkeys first. So what could possibly be the purpose of that multilingual communication? Why is it beneficial for them to communicate with not just their own species, but with all species in the canopy?
In order to unite together and work together in order to share sources.
Excellent. Yes, to unite together and to help each other with their survival and make them more likely to survive. So essentially they're able to increase the reproductive success of not only their own species, but the others that are living in the canopy. What about the capuchin? What was the purpose of the capuchin letting out that false alarm call?
To eat the egg by himself.
Yeah,
and not share.
yeah, exactly. Good job, Michaela. So exactly, they wanted that that capuchin monkey in the video was a lower ranking, so he was lower on the totem pole, so he wanted to find a way to get access to that high quality food source, that egg. So he knew that he could do that by letting out that false alarm call. So all of his group mates then scattered. They all scattered thinking that there was a predator, and that allowed him to then get access to that egg. Pretty interesting, right?
Very
all right, so
level culture displayed in that clip with all the different monkeys communicating. That's amazing.
Yeah, really cool, right? Lots of cool. This is one of my favorite chapters. I love this chapter so much because it gives us so many great examples of primate culture. So as